Niall Ferguson said, "The law of unintended consequences is the only real law of history." Basically, he was saying, if you decide to go this way, then other things will happen, and you can't really predict what's going to happen. Or you can go this way, some things will happen, and you can't really predict what the unintended consequences of every single behavior will be. And this is certainly true for my life. Justice Day 2016, we brought in world-famous climatologist Dr. Katharine Hayhoe to talk about how climate change affects the poor. A lot of people thought this was some political statement of mine, which it absolutely wasn't. Whether or not you think climate change is something that human beings cause or human beings contribute to, or it just happens, it's happening. That is a documented fact. It is happening. And so we wanted to ask the question, around the world where we support different people, how is this going to affect them? Because whenever climate changes, it always disproportionately affects the poor, particularly around the fringes of different continents. Now, side note, we'll get back to that in a second. Side note, last week we had the opportunity to spend time with Marion Wallace Kamau. Marion Wallace Kamau are missionaries in Kenya. And we took them, a group of us took them to Sight and Sound Theater. Have you ever been there in Lancaster? Like I am the biggest skeptic when it comes to cheesy Christian crap, right? But I was blown away. Like that theatrical performance of David was unreal, off the charts, as good or better than anything I've ever seen on Broadway. Anyway, we thought it would be really cool to take them to go see that at Sight and Sound, and then to burst the stereotype that Americans are lazy and have no self-control. Afterwards, we took them to eat at Shady Maple Smorgasbord. You want to know what the number one thing I took away from our conversation was? Number one thing, besides catching up, how are the kids, how are things happening, and it's just so good. These are friends we'll have for life. Number one thing was the heartbreaking stories they were telling us about how millions of people are pouring into Nairobi because the people can't farm any longer. It's just simply impossible to farm on the outskirts, and how it's just utterly affecting them. Anyway, back to Justice Day 2016. I was so convicted by the discussion in 2016 that we had, I came home and I said, we're gonna eliminate all waste. We're gonna try to live as sustainably as possible. So the first thing I did is I bought energy-saving light bulbs. Have you ever done this? Like every single light in the house. It wasn't cheap, not cheap. So energy-saving light bulbs. Then I went and unplugged all the unused wires. If every single thing in the house that isn't being used, I unplugged all the wires so there wasn't a draw on the electricity. And then for the very first time, I became serious about recycling. Now, Lisa had always been serious about recycling, and I would always make fun of her. Oh, Al Gore, inventor of the internet and global warming, right? And she would always get on me about that needs to be recycled. Why are you throwing that away? That needs to be recycled. So I came home and I said, that's it. Every single one of our rooms, we're going to have a recycling bin and we're going to have a trash bin. And I got boxes, big boxes. And so we break down every single piece of paper, every single piece of cardboard. We eliminated everything that we eat on that has plastic in it. So there are no plastic dishes, no plastic cups. We started, before I got serious about recycling, we would produce maybe about 4 bags of trash and maybe 1 bag of recycling. Now we have 1 big thing of recycling and a small thing of trash. We just tried to eliminate everything. And it's only because I know the kids that you support all throughout Kenya, this is affecting them. And I said, all I have to do is change something about my lifestyle, and at least it will matter to me. And the difference was I had a face to it. So the next question was, after all of these, it kept having these unintended consequences. It led to, why am I using so much stuff that needs recycling in the first place? Right? I get up in the morning, if I have a cup of strawberries and a handful of almonds, and if I use a paper cup every single day for 365 days, that's all going in the landfill. Why am I doing that every single day? Which led to even a bigger question. What if we could never throw our stuff away? Right? There was a big landfill, right? It's all covered up in Collegeville. Another one up in Douglasville, and now they're gonna put one over in Spring City. 300 years from now, our great-great-grandchildren are going to be building homes where they live on all of our discarded crap. So I started asking the question, how would your life change if you couldn't throw anything away and they take it away? Like you had to dispose of it. We would become very, very conscious about what we eat and how we're packaging stuff and going out to take out Chinese, right? And you got these, when I'm done with it, where's it going to go? Right? And then that led me to the question, why do I even have spaces in my house that I don't go to, I don't use? Am I the only one, is there a space in your house, like if you did a heat footprint of your whole house, like there are areas of your house you never go, but yet you pay for that, and you heat that, and you cool that, and you pay taxes on that. I've told you before, one of the things I like to do is I like to walk the Perkiomen. The Lenape called the Perkiomen. The Perkiomen meant the dirty water. And you know what's interesting? I can spend a whole afternoon looking for artifacts, and maybe I'll find one tool, one axe, one hafted head of a hammer or something. You know how long the Lenape have been in this area? Or were in our area? They moved in 13,000 years ago. And then the Penn Treaty, right, in the 1680s happened. There was an original Penn Treaty, and then there was another one right after that, which incorporated all of our lands, right, where we all live. The Lenape lived here for 13,000 years. We have lived here for, I wrote it down, 342 years. It takes me an entire afternoon to find one stone tool. There's nothing left. But yet we've been here for 3 centuries and have almost destroyed the place. 3 centuries from now, this place will become unrecognizable because of our abuse of our resources. Why? Because we need more stuff. We need more stuff. Look at this. There are 300,000 items in the average American home. The average size of the American home has nearly tripled in size over the past 50 years. Jesus, all of the homes that were in Capernaum, the average home size in Capernaum based on the archaeological footprint, 400 square feet. This is for a family of 5 to 9 people. 1 out of every 10 Americans rent off-site storage. Like, that's what we really need in King of Prussia, right? Another massive storage facility off of 422, right? To store all of the crap that we don't have room for, right? 25% of people with 2-car garages don't have room to park their cars inside of them. The U.S. has upwards of 50,000 storage facilities, more than 5 times the number of Starbucks. Every American could stand all at the same time under the canopy of self-storage roofing. The average 10-year-old owns 238 toys, but plays with just 12 daily. The average American woman owns 30 outfits, 1 for every day of the month. In 1930, that figure was 9. In Jesus' time, it was 1. And you wore it until it physically shredded off of your body, and you replaced it. So women, suck it up. The average American family spends, this is a low estimate, $1,700 on clothes annually. The average American throws away 65 pounds of clothing per year. Why? Because we are sold into this fast fashion. Part of the reason, if you see me wearing the same things over and over again, it is intentional. I know it's not stylish. I remember, I got one of these coats a year ago. I walked in the teaching team with it, and they were like, "Oh, that's stylish. Oh, whoa, that's stylish." And I said, "Well, hang on. You're going to see me wear it next week, too. And the week after that, and the week after that, and the week after that." I'm not trying to be stylish. I just like the coat. And anyway, our homes have more television sets than people. Television sets are turned on for more than a third of the day. Women will spend more than 8 years of their lives shopping. 93% of teenage girls rank shopping as their favorite pastime. We will spend a total of 3,680 hours or 150 days of our lives searching for misplaced items. Where was that? Oh, that's there. Where's that? Where's this and that, right? We lose up to 9 items every day, or 198,743 in a lifetime. Phones, keys, sunglasses, paperwork. What's that saint y'all pray to? Is it Christopher? Anthony? Is it Anthony? It's Anthony, right? Anthony's worn out from all this stuff, right? The 8 billion home organization industry has more than doubled in size since the 2000s, and it's growing at 10% every single year. When Jesus says, "Do not love the world or everything in the world, for if you love the world, the love of the Father is not in you," he's not talking about not loving the people, talking about their ways, what they value. We're in a series called Would You Rather. We've been talking about important bargains that we choose to make with our lives and how God is always offering us a better way. Like we've been talking for the past few weeks, we would play Would You Rather, right? You were given 2 impossible options and you had to weigh them and pick one. And in good fashion, I brought one to you today. So get next to someone right now. I'm going to ask you a would you rather. You're going to share it with the person next to you, and it's this. Would you rather have a mullet for a year or a mohawk for a month? Go. Mullet for a year, mohawk for a month. Okay. Mullet for a year. Let me see your hands. Really? Not that many. Mohawk for a month. Is it a mohawk you're like, let's just get it over with? Right? Because a mullet is that bad, right? I anticipated that answer. And so I thought I would show you a photo that my sister sent of me when I was in high school and she was in college. Take a look at this photo right here. So here's another one. The question is that a mullet? Yeah, it was definitely a mullet. But it was because I loved U2 before all of you fell in love with U2. I was a big fan of U2 back with their first album, and Bono had one of these haircuts, and I got one of these Bono hats and haircuts, and I don't know, my mom must have been humiliated with me walking around with this Bono mullet. Anyway, Jesus says there are 3 ways excess possessions keep us from the life that he wants. And I want you to think about which one affects you the most. The first is this: excess stress. Everything that we own requires time, money, energy, and focus to maintain. And every increased possession adds increased anxiety to our lives. This is why Jesus prefaced his teaching on anxiety in the Sermon on the Mount. Before Jesus talked about anxiety, he said there's something else that you gotta fix that is producing the anxiety. He said, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. Stop collecting stuff on earth. More possessions cause more problems. Let me give you an example of like worrying about stuff. Have you ever bought a new car? Right? What do you do when you get a new car? You know, you're driving up to a restaurant and the person you're with in the car is like, why are we parking 7 miles from the restaurant? Very simple, because I don't want anybody denting my car, right? So it was during the day. I went to the dollar store. No one was in the parking lot. I parked in a spot away from the dollar store, and this grandfather pulled up right next to me. I was like, hey. He said, hey. 2 seconds later, his granddaughter slammed my door, put a 4-inch dent in the door. She looked at it and goes, oops. And I looked at him and I just caught myself for a second. I was like, why am I so angry that a 4-year-old dented my car? Like, for a second, I was like, I want to hurt someone. Over a dent in a car? Author Kathleen Quinlan writes, each thing I own is another thing I have to look after, to keep clean, keep working, keep safe after thieves. Each additional item in my home is something I have to pick up, walk around, dust, clean, or keep in storage. They tax my time and my attention. More possessions mean more clutter in my home and in my mind. Gosh, I remember when my youngest, there were these like little things that she would collect and you would have to get more and more, and they were always around the basement floor and that sort of thing. One of the greatest days of my life is the day I went and I put them all in the toy container, and I took it straight out to the trash can and dumped that sucker. And what we think is, oh, it's just with kids' toys. No, it's not. We know it's not. Every single item that we have, the amount of time and energy we spend managing this stuff creates something inside of us that Jesus never wants for his disciples. One of my favorite documentaries is the documentary Look and See, about the life of Wendell Berry. Berry left a career that was taking off in New York City to move back to his family farm in Kentucky. His friends said, "You are insane. You're killing your career." But from there, William Berry has spent his life writing about how the constant pursuit of more has destroyed our land and polluted our food systems, and how accumulating more and more has actually delivered less and less. And so when people wonder, when I tell them I'm praying that God would give me a farm someday, they were like, why? And I'm like, Wendell Berry. I just think there's something about being close to where your food is created. You pay attention to what is actually in your food. You care then about the food that's being fed our kids in schools and the pesticides, all that stuff. So anyway, I want you to listen to Wendell Berry read one of his powerful poems about the American pursuit of more. Take a look.
Even while I dreamed, I prayed that what I saw was only fear and no foretelling. For I saw the last known landscape destroyed for the sake of the objective. The soil bulldozed, the rock blasted. Those who had wanted to go home would never get there now. I saw the forest reduced to stumps and gullies. I saw the poisoned river, the mountain cast into the valley. I came to the city that nobody recognized because it looked like every other city.
I love that song.
Men and women and children now pursued the objective as if nobody ever had pursued it before. The once enslaved, the once oppressed were now free to sell themselves to the highest bidder and to enter the best-paying prisons in pursuit of the objective, which was the destruction of all enemies, which was the destruction of all obstacles. which was to clear the way to victory, which was to clear the way to self-creation, from which nobody who ever wanted to go home would ever get there now. For every remembered place had been displaced, every love unloved, every vow unsworn, to make way for the passage of the crowd, of the individuated, the autonomous, the self-actuated, the homeless, with their many eyes opened only toward the objective, which they did not yet perceive in the far distance, having never known where they were going, having never known where they came from.
Do you see the difference? There's a reason right after when Jesus gave the command in the aorist tense in Greek, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, that he said, do not worry. Right after that, do not worry, he said, Matthew 6:25. And that's because more stuff produces more stress. So when we ask the question, in what ways are our excess possessions keeping us from enjoying the life Jesus wants us to live versus stress? Here's the second one, excess waste. And we think this isn't a spiritual problem. This is a massive spiritual problem. Because before we were given the command of the Great Commission, we were given the command to take care of, in Genesis 2, God's creation. Excess waste that could go to help people who are in genuine need. I remember I read one time, anyone who has 2 shirts should share with the one who has none. And so I want to ask you a question. Do you have 2 coats at home? Meaning, is there a perfectly good coat at home that you're not using? I remember reading this verse and going to Lisa and saying, how many coats do you have? She was like, I don't know. So I went, she thought I was nuts, but I went to every single closet in the house and I gathered all of our coats, all of them. You want to know how many coats we had? 16 coats. You want to know why? Because my wife never throws away anything, ever. So we had 16 coats. 6 of them were mine, 10 were hers. And it's not like these were expensive coats. We're just constantly buying stuff. That's not it at all. We've been married now for 35 years. If you don't throw things away and you keep them, and they're just sitting in the closet. They're just sitting there. Why? Why are they sitting in the closet if I'm a disciple of Jesus? Seriously, like, why do you have coats that you don't use in your closets if you're a disciple of Jesus? As Dorothy Day said, if you have 2 coats, one of them belongs to the poor. And it just shocked me. So we just said, what do we actually need? We took them and we gave them away. This is why Jesus says, I'm out from what the culture does. Do not love the world. He's not talking about the people. He's talking about the things that the world values. And the world values possessions. The world values escaping by going and shopping. So Jesus says, I'm done, not because we're just taking resources for the stuff that we could give to others, or we're wasting God's natural resources, but we're screwing up our planet. They don't go to landfills. There's no way. There's not going to be enough landfills in this area 300 years from now. All of our great-great-grandkids are going to be building and rebuilding homes on all of our crap in this area. So when we think about what ways are excess possessions keeping us from enjoying life to the fullest, excess stress and excess weight, Are those two for you? And the last one is excess unhappiness. Like, do we really need more things that make us unhappy in life? Isn't life hard enough that we need to go creating prisons of our own unhappiness? Do we really need to work ourselves into the ground to buy bigger, nicer homes, trendier clothes, better technology, stuffed drawers and closets? Like, one of my things that I do that I'm ashamed of, that I shouldn't do, I'd go to realtor.com and I type in my dream home in a 50-mile area, and I just look at all the homes. And I go and I look at how many rooms, and I look at the land, because I know someday I'm gonna be able to come to you and you're gonna get me $15,000 ranch in Wyoming, right? You're gonna do it, right? Like, so what I do is I'm constantly looking at these things. And does that make you happier? Constantly looking at what you don't have? Paul said, we brought nothing into the world and we could take nothing out of it, but if we have food and clothing, we'll be content with that. And the reality is we don't need more space, we need less stuff. Less TV, more reading. Less shopping, more outdoors. Less clutter, more space. Less rush, more slowness. Less consuming, more creating. Less junk, more real food. Less busy work, more impact. Less driving, more walking. Less noise, more solitude. Less focus on the future, more focus on the present. Less work, more play. So here's your homework assignment. I want to encourage you this week to make a list of what you consider enough. Enough. Like, for your life to work, and it's different for everybody, for you, what is enough? I literally want you to write it down. What is my salary? Like, how big's the house? The cars? And I want you to list the stuff in the house. I want to list how you're going to spend your time. And I just get it on there, and I want you to look at it, and I want you to ask, okay, this is between you and God. No one else is judging you. Is that enough? Because one of the problems is that we don't know what enough is. Kurt Vonnegut was talking to Joseph Heller, who wrote Catch-22 and Slaughterhouse-Five. They're the party of a billionaire. Vonnegut is teasing Heller. And he said, this billionaire whose house we're at, he made more money this week than your book will make in its entire life. And Heller says, but I have something he doesn't have. Vonnegut says, what's that? And Heller said, I have some idea of what enough is. So Seneca, who quotes Epicurus, if you don't regard what you have as enough, you will never be happy even if you rule the entire world. Tomorrow, Americans will spend you knew I was going there, $11 billion on stuff that we don't need. God is coming to us and asking us to choose. Would you rather spend your life chasing stuff, or would you rather be genuinely happy? Father, we thank you so much that in the form of your Son, you challenged us on what we actually live, what we need, what can bring happiness. And the challenges are differently for every single person in this room. But God, help us to define what is enough. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thanks for watching today's message. Make sure to check out Brian's new book, Finding Favor, God's Blessings Beyond Health, Wealth, and Happiness. To sign up for Brian's newsletter, please go to Brian's website at brianjones.com.